Marc Stevens, author of Government Indicted. The website, of course, is markstevens.net. And the radio show No State Project live every Saturday from 4 to 7 Eastern Standard Time on the Liberty Radio Network. That's LRN.FM. And if you disagree with anything that's presented in this video or anything on markstevens.net or any of the other shows that I may do, give us a call. We're live most Saturdays, again, 4 to 7 Eastern Standard Time. You can also email me at markstevens@mail.com and Frank Rizzo3 on Skype. And just want to discredit continually what we do here on the No State Project is to discredit political arguments. And the big one, of course, is that if you're physically in Arizona, then the Constitution laws apply. And the people called government, they have jurisdiction over you. Now, just like every other politician I've ever spoken to and bureaucrat, and you can get them all on markstevens.net. Well, not all of them, but you can get quite a few, several gigs worth. None of them can provide a single fact to support that argument. So it's very easy to discredit the argument and therefore discredit the politician or at least their position. And so we got Debra Spinner, who is the city attorney in Mesa, Arizona. I know, it's Mesa, Arizona. That's where the fortified compound is. It can be kind of dangerous, so I don't push it. But I did have a bunch of emails with her, and she gives the standard political garbage to avoid a simple question. Now, we already know that the police, they all operate, and even the critics will say, well, yes, if you're physically in Arizona, well, duh, of course the laws apply to you. But when you ask them questions about that, that's when all the lies and all the legalistic gibberish and all that other thing, anything but answering the actual question you'll get. And it's no different with Miss Spinner. So I had gone through a number of emails trying to get her on the phone. She wouldn't. But I was asking her the question. She kept on saying, I can't answer a hypothetical. So now I did get her on the phone last week, and she did not want to do an interview. Wow. There's a shock. And it's just like the media rep who ran interference at ASU. I can't see, it's basically, I can't see how this could benefit my office by coming on the show because it's so easy to prove that the laws apply. So easy. Why go on a show that continually puts out information that you cannot prove that? But they don't see a benefit to the office. The ASU Law School does not see a benefit to coming on the No State Project and proving that government is a legitimate organization and that the laws that they are training people at the ASU Law School, I don't think it's within their interest to actually prove publicly that they apply to anybody. So Miss Spinner on the phone did the same thing. She did this garbage about, I don't answer hypotheticals. I can't. That's the thing here. A hypothetical means being or involving a hypothesis, or involving or based on a suggested idea or theory. Not real, imagined as an example. But we know full well, if you're out there, physically in Arizona, they believe the laws apply to you, and the police can investigate you, and the prosecutor's office can file complaints against you. There's nothing hypothetical about it. All you have is a politician who doesn't want to answer a very difficult question. So when they come out and they say to you, I can't answer a hypothetical, they're lying to you. You're not asking a hypothetical. It's just that easy to discredit these politicians. She then goes through and she says, I should retain my own attorney. Why should I have to retain an attorney as a member of the media, working as a journalist, investigating how the Mesa City Attorney's Office operates, and asking a question based on the argument that forms the foundation of the office? Retain an attorney? It's a dodge. It's a weave. It's anything to avoid the question. Then she goes to the standard, and you have to expect this. She says, I cannot provide you advice. Mark, I cannot provide you advice. I was asking a question of fact based on how the office operates. It's not asking for advice. So if we look at advice, advice means a recommendation regarding a decision or course of conduct. Yeah. So I'm not, and I let her know I'm not asking that. I'd be like a reporter asking a fireman, the fire chief, do you believe that the evidence suggests, or do you have any evidence to suggest that this was done deliberately to set this house on fire? Ma'am, I can't answer that question. I cannot give legal advice. I mean, obviously he's lying and he's just dodging the question. He's not being asked for legal advice. But this is what these politicians do. They lie, they shuck and jive, they do everything they can to avoid answering the question. So I tried to get her to realize how ridiculous it was to say it was hypothetical or that I was asking for advice. And I had given the example that, look, if you were cross-examining me on the witness stand and you asked me a question of fact, and she shot back, but you're not on the witness stand, I'm not cross-examining you. And I'm thinking, I'm giving you an analogy so you can understand just how ridiculous your position is. But their whole position is ridiculous. The idea that their laws apply to us just because we're physically in Arizona is absolutely ridiculous. And why? Because there's no evidence that their laws apply. They just write things down on a piece of paper. All it is a rule, and they say, well, this applies to everybody. But there's no actual evidence to support that. And this is another example. Ms. Debbie Spinner, who's been practicing law for almost 30 years. Almost 30 years, an advanced university degree. She either doesn't know the difference between advice and a question of fact, and she doesn't understand what the word hypothetical means, or she's deliberately deflecting attention away from her lack of evidence. If she had evidence to prove that these laws she swears applies, I mean swear in a legal sense, she absolutely insists that these laws apply. How many peaceful people in Mesa are sitting in jail right now because they believe that if you're physically in Mesa or physically in Arizona, their laws apply? Yet she can't take 1 minute of her time on the phone or in an email to actually provide that evidence. And it didn't matter to her for a second that I mentioned, I've gone to the police about it. They couldn't provide a shred of evidence. I actually have the Scottsdale PD on record not being able to. They stalked me. I brought up, when you bring this up in court, the judges lose their minds and start screaming, and then they call for contempt. So that's why I was calling as a journalist, asking just a basic question on how the office operates. And she throws up a roadblock. I can't answer hypotheticals, and I can't provide legal advice. Neither of which I was doing. But you can go and you can replicate this yourself. It's very, very easy to discredit these politicians and bureaucrats. Just call them up and ask for the facts their arguments are based. And I would suggest starting with the foundational one. Have them agree that, yes, if you're physically in Arizona or you're physically in California or wherever, then their laws apply to you. Then ask them for the facts that is based on, and you'll get all this garbage that Debbie gave me. Well, it's a hypothetical. I can't answer a hypothetical. I can't provide legal advice. Nobody is asking you for advice. And then she brings up that she'd violate the rules of conduct. Oh, please. The rules of conduct say you're not supposed to be putting forth an argument unless you have facts to back it up, which, of course, she does not. So I really don't think that she would accept for 2 seconds if you refuse to comply with a police officer's questions. If you turn around and say, sorry, sir, I can't answer a hypothetical. Oh, I'm sorry. I know this is a traffic stop, but I can't give you legal advice. Oh, you want my license and registration? Sorry, can't answer a hypothetical. But that's what you can expect from these politicians. And that's what we got from Debbie Spinner, who I believe this phone call and the emails that I had just shows she has no credibility whatsoever. Who cares if you work for 30 years as an attorney? You don't know the difference between a hypothetical and a question of fact, and you certainly don't know what advice really is. Again, it's a recommendation. I wasn't asking for that. It was a question of fact. But if you disagree with what I presented here, you're more than welcome to contact me at markstevens@mail.com and call into a live broadcast of the No State Project. We're live Friday, most Saturdays from 4 to 7 Eastern Standard Time on LRN.FM. Again, the website is markstevens.net.